Thanks everyone for joining me. My name is Kevin Anyango, and this is Mtandao Varsity School of Soft Skills. The platform literally talks about those characteristics that employers are looking for or that attract opportunities. And today I'm not alone. Today I am with Mashirima. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's a pleasure to be here.
But and finally you're here. I'm going to say, Mashirima, that you're very hard to find, aren't you? You're a very busy lady.
Yeah, sometimes, but I'm here now.
Absolutely, yes. And I cannot thank you now for this. I know that, these are family times, or, you could be doing other things. So thank you very much for being here. And I really appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
And of course, I'm going to say Happy Women's Day. How do you feel today?
Thank you. Well, I don't know. It's a day like any other.
I mean, do you do?
There's of course what we're celebrating today. Most importantly is that there are stories that I've done. One ran yesterday and another today, celebrating women in conservation in Samburu County. There's also a conversation that's ongoing on Twitter on what women want, and just celebrating the women who've been able to lift others, especially now during the pandemic. Throughout last year, things were really hard for a lot of people, more so for women. Most women went through domestic violence. Most of them could not be able to get the kind of jobs that they would get, Mama Safi, Mama Boga, because a lot of people were staying home. But there are so many great women who stood in the gap for these women and girls who are not going to school and stuff like that. So if you want to follow that conversation, it's on Twitter. What the hashtag is, what women want, hashtag IWD 2021.
And having mentioned that, I think I'll just go straight to the point. There is a perception that the world has, particularly when women are doing okay. So if you allow me to use it as an example, clearly I know how old you are. But there is a perception that, when you see a young girl doing okay, well, in terms of you're a journalist and, quite senior journalist actually. What is the perception? When you go to the field and talk to people, or what do you think people see you as?
There's the first impression, of course. You saw me right now, and the first thing you said is, I look so young. I don't know what I look like on TV. So first of all, there's that, the first impression that people think that, oh, you're just a young girl. How did you get this far in such a short time? When I tell them that I'm over 30, then they take a step back. First of all, they are shocked.
But is that annoying though? I mean, do you feel like, for example, if let's say there's a young man similar your age, doing the same work, do you think that they command more respect compared to you, or it doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't matter. It's how you brand yourself. It's what you do. When you do good work, people appreciate. It doesn't matter how young you look. When you start speaking and they see that there's something between your ears, then the respect is the same, whether it's a man or a woman. At least I haven't had that kind of challenge where someone would pick a man for an interview because it's a man or because they look older. I guess the opportunities are there. It's just how you present yourself.
I'm talking about opportunities, Mashirima. So this platform is literally talking about soft skills, those things that employers are looking for, beside academics. So you as a senior journalist, and I've got to say, actually, I didn't say this, you are a journalist based in Nairobi, and it's okay to refer to you as a journalist, right? Or are you a journalist or a media personality?
I am a journalist.
Not media personality?
No.
No, or celebrity?
I am a journalist.
Right. So when people look at you and they admire what you do, the story that you tell, we're going to talk about that at some point. But what do you tell people, particularly women that want to join this kind of career? Most of the times people depend on academics, but I want to assume it's not just academics, is it?
The academics part is very important because you learn a lot about what journalism entails when it comes to writing, when it comes to picture, when it comes to editing. There's a lot that you have to have academically. And then second, you have to have the passion and the talent for it. You have to know what you want in terms of how do you want to relay your stories? Do you want to relay your stories through broadcast, whether it's radio or TV? Do you want to relay your stories through film? Do you want to relay your stories through writing? Do you want to do it online through podcasts? So once you know that, then you're able to sort of create a path for yourself. And then you have to know what language you want to use in broadcasting, who's your audience. And once you know that, then it becomes easier to maneuver, because even when you go and ask for a job, you have to already know what you want for yourself. You don't just go and say, I want to do this, I can do this. You also have to have your mind in a certain space to be able to get that opportunity.
You talked about passion. So how do people show passion in an interview? Or how will you tell yourself when you're looking for someone to come and work for you? And where you say the academic is important, but also you must have that passion, isn't it? So how do you show that passion? Or, you see what I mean?
You have to be doing something about what you want to do for your employer or whoever. I started doing this in high school, not
Nice.
broadcast, but I would read small stories from the paper in front of the school assembly in high school. When I went to Daystar, I think my first week I was in the studio, and I was participating in the shows. Even if at that time I didn't have so much confidence, so I wouldn't talk for too long, but at least I would make sure that my voice would be heard. And then I found a space for myself in telling stories within the school. And I found someone who was also working at the district radio station, and they had a few months or a few years experience. So it was easy to just sort of piggyback on them, sorry, and let them show me the way. And from then, I did several things. When there were trainings that were organized by the school, I would participate. I would do stories. I would ensure that the assignments that have been given are done. So by the time you're getting to your employer, you have something to show.
Right. So you didn't just wake up and be Mashirima Kapombe. You started somewhere. There's a journey behind all this.
Yeah, there is. You don't just wake up and and start getting stories or interviews or get on air and start reading news. There's so much you go through. You have to, as I said, you have to have started somewhere. You have to show that you know what, even in the little space that you had before, you are making an impact. So when your employer also is giving you an opportunity like internship, you don't sit and start thinking about, first of all, pay. In as much as it's important, you need that experience. So you don't rush for the money. You rush for you you just look for the space. You need your foot in the door. Once you get in, then you're able to maneuver. Because when I started at KBC as an intern, we were not being paid. We were paying KBC to do internship. And then when I moved to another company, we got a little stipend. It wasn't a lot of
So I'm losing it.
compensation for transport. You have your foot in the door. People are seeing what you're doing. They're seeing your commitment to the small opportunities that you've been given. And that's where you get bigger opportunities.
But Mashirima, you'll agree with me that especially now, many people want to make it. When I say make it, like, they want to be a household name, within the night. They want to be doing cool stories. So what do you tell people? So over there are lots of graduates, struggling to get employment. Even internship in Kenya is quite difficult to get. Is that correct? Will you agree with that?
That's true. It's very difficult because there are so many graduates getting out of uni, colleges, tertiary institutions, and they all are looking for space somewhere. The problem is when you have your mind set on a particular thing or a particular space or a particular company, that you're not willing to start small. You see, apart from the big stations, as I would call them, there are so many community stations and papers and whatnot. There are online publications that people can get opportunities. And it's not even just about getting an opportunity from somebody else. There's Instagram, there's YouTube, there are podcasts that you can start doing something on your own. And in that sense, then there's something that we always used to say when we were in uni: there's always someone listening. It doesn't matter how small the publication may be or the station may be. There's always somebody listening. There's always somebody reading. There's always someone watching. So whatever you do, you have to give it your all, so that when that person watches on that lucky day and you get your lucky break, then it will mean something.
And I like that. There's always someone watching. So sorry, carry on.
Go ahead.
Sorry, so you say something, Mashirima, carry on.
No. I finished.
Right. Well, I was going to talk about, you mentioned about this someone always listening. And this brings me to another segment about internet, the role of internet in terms of open opportunities. And, you talked about some social media aspect, you talked about Instagram, Facebook, and other platforms. So I suppose I'm trying to repeat myself. So are you saying that, people should not give up if they don't get opportunities in major media houses? They can just start what they have, which is social media.
Yes.
But again, there is an element of being bullied online, Mashirima.
Yes, there is. But you see, if you allow people to bully you, or you take the criticism in a negative manner, there are people who are mean. That's true. But you can't let a few people who don't know you, who've never met you, and who probably do not have the space to give you an opportunity, make you stop doing what you love doing, what you're passionate about. Then you will not make it when you get that big break, because now it will be a bigger space. There'll be bigger bullies, and
Yes.
you have to have thick skin. So you have, while you're starting small, there's so much you're learning. You're preparing yourself for the bigger things.
Right. Well, you make it sound so easy, but I'm sure it's not. For those who are just joining us, my name is Kim Nyango, and I'm talking to Mashirima Kapombe, a journalist based in Kenya. And today we are talking, in reflection to International Women's Day, we are talking about journalism as a career and how people can step into it. So Mashirima, you talked about, there will always be people, there will be people that will always bully people online. And when you go to workplace, you find big bullies as well. So when someone's being bullied online, oh, how do they protect themselves on that? Or how do they develop that thick skin?
Okay, for one, I just block. I've learned that my peace of mind is more important than anything else. And if you don't like me, if you don't like what I'm doing, I'll help you. I'll help you, and I'll mute you from I'll block you from seeing my stuff, because there's a reason why you're following me, or
Yes,
there's a
yes.
reason why you're following what I'm doing. So if you only want to come and be mean and not exactly be constructive in giving criticism, it's one thing if someone said, I loved, like, for example, if somebody said, I loved the story that you did last night on the Elephant Whisperer. I wish you would have added A, B, C, D. Then that's good. That's good. But when you want to come on and just bash everything, and you probably have never been to a journalism school, then I don't know why you're in my space. I care about my mental health. So when I see that, I just block immediately. I don't even think twice about it.
Wow. I mean, I like, so, I mean, there's something you mentioned that's quite important, mental health, which is quite close to me as well. But if I just go back to when you're, building yourself to be a journalist. So where did you get the command for both English and Swahili? Because you're very fluent, especially in Swahili.
Yes, I am. I'm fluent in both languages. And when I was starting out, I thought, let me do Kiswahili, because not so many people are drawn to the language, especially when it comes to looking for work. And I thought to myself that so many people who I went to school with would always communicate in in English. And even when we would do assignments, they would do assignments in English. So I thought, let me do Kiswahili, because after all, I'm fluent in the language. It's my first language. And then second, I felt like it would be easier to get an opportunity, because there are not so many people in that space. And that strategy really worked, because when I did my internship at a certain radio station, I found their lead newsreader was pregnant, so heavily pregnant, I should add. So I started news, I think, for that station when I was a month old as an intern, and it's because they needed to groom someone, so that when the main newsreader went for maternity, they would have someone already. And I had also asked so many times during the interview for the internship. I asked when after they'd asked the questions, and then they asked, so do you have a question? And I said, how long would it take for me, if you give me the job, then how long would it take for me to go on air? And they said, well, if you come in and do a voice test and your voice is good, then immediately. So when I got the job, first day, I went in and did a voice test, and I asked the boss to listen to it. He didn't listen to it the first day, so I did it again the second day, and the third day, and the fourth day. And I was constantly at his desk. Have you listened? Have you listened? Have you listened? Have you listened? In the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening. So in the end, he had no option but to listen. And he listened, and he was like, oh, that's good.
So that was about persistence, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You usually find people, like, for example, I grew up knowing that being persistent can be seen as being pushy, or can be seen as being rude. And from what you're saying right now, I can see that obviously persistence, it's a good thing to have, or it's a good skill to have, to not be shy.
It is. You have to know what you want, and you have to keep pushing. You see, Kevin, if you also were not persistent, I don't think I would be here, because you were constantly in the inbox, like 5 messages
Yes,
per day. Like,
I
oh my
know.
goodness, this person.
Well, Mashirima, unachoma sasa.
But I appreciated that. I really did. And even when I canceled the first time and I said, I have an assignment out of town, you said, okay, let's set another date, and you still kept pushing. For me, that was everything. I felt like, okay, if this is truly important to this person, and that's why they're pushing for it, so I have no option but to say yes and to show up. So
you're very kind.
persistence is important.
You're very kind, and I'm glad you brought that element of, again, be persistent. And for those people that are listening to us, those that are struggling with opportunities, you cannot give up. And that is true. I did send lots of messages to you, and at some point I felt really bad. I'm like, this girl might think I've got other mission, but listen, you are here now, and I'm very, very grateful. Just back to the language. Can we change to Swahili? Ni sawa kusema Swahili?
Unajua mimi hata ni kwa sababu sasa unajua jina lako ni Onyango, so nilikuwa nafikiria Kiswahili si mdomo chako.
Mashirima, it is Anyango. That's number one. And number two, Kiswahili ni chetu. It's fine. Lakini Kiswahili ni chetu. Right. So it's okay to Kiswahili kidogo.
Sawa, ni sawa.
Kwa sababu napenda jinsi tunavyozungumza wakati mwingine wakati tunasoma habari kama hivyo. So wakati tunasoma habari and
unaona mwenyewe umekwama.
Can I mix Swahili and English? Okay, is that allowed?
That's right.
Well, listen. I was going to ask, when you're reading news, and you come across as very natural. I mean, you're not really struggling at all. You make it look so easy. So when you're growing up, and obviously, I've looked at your profile. Most of us, we assume that we speak good Swahili. You are either umetoka Mombasa, umetoka Pwani, ama ni Tanzania. Lakini clearly, you sound like me in terms of as in hujalelewa Pwani. Is that true?
Sijalelewa Pwani, lakini mimi ninatoka kaunti ya Kilifi.
Okay. Okay. So ulikuzaje the talent or the way you speak Swahili? How did you build that?
Nadhani ilikuja tu sababu babangu na mamangu wote ni wa Pwani, lakini mmoja ni Mgiriama, mwingine ni Mtaita. Sasa upate hawa watu wawili kutoka kabila mbili tofauti wamekuja wakashikana, kisha hawajalea watoto wao katika kaunti za Pwani, wakahama kwenye Nyeri. Yes. Ambapo huko watu wengi ambao wako katika kaunti ya Nyeri ni Wakikuyu. Sasa ikawa vigumu kwa hawa watu wawili kutuzungumzia sisi kwa lugha zao za mama, kwa sababu mama hawezi kumwongelesha baba kwa Kitaita, baba hawezi kumwongelesha mama kwa Kigiriama. Kwa hivyo tukakuwa tukizungumza Kiswahili.
Pamoja na familia pia. So wewe na dada zako na ndugu zako
sote tumekuwa tukizungumza Kiswahili.
But watu wengine wanaanza kujifunza bado. Kwa mfano kama wale watu ambao wanakutazama wanataka kuwa kama wewe, wanaweza kuuza lugha ili waseme vizuri na wawe waarifu wa lugha hicho. Kweli?
Ndio wanaweza, lakini pia inahitaji kwamba upende hiyo lugha kwanza kabisa, na pia usome vitabu. Usiposoma vitabu utajuaje lugha ya mtu?
Lakini watu wengi sana, lakini Mashirima, watu wengi sana huwa msamani kidogo. So, watu wengi sana huwa wasomi vitabu. Sana mali tumetoka mimi na wewe Kenya. Alafu tena watu umri wetu pia hawapendi kitabu vile. Tunasoma tu kwa sababu ya mtihani, lakini kusoma tu ili upate kujifunza kitu ama upate kukuza lugha yako, huwa tufanye hivyo. Sivyo?
Sasa sijui nitaelezaje. Manake ndio kuna labda vipindi unaweza kutazama na ujifunze lugha, lakini ili uweze kuielewa lugha vizuri lazima usome vitabu. Hakuna shortcut. You just have to. If you want to be an English speaker, you have to constantly read English books. You have to have your dictionary. next to you. Ukitaka kuwa mzungumzaji mzuri wa Kiswahili, lazima usome vitabu vya Kiswahili, lazima uwe na kamusi karibu nawe kila wakati, ndio utaweza kujua. Ukipata neno jipya, utaweza kuangalia ujue maana yake ni ipi, matumizi yake ni yapi, na kama kuna misemo au methali, utaweza kujifunza hata uifanye hiyo lugha ikuwe itafurahisha tu, lakini mpaka uipende. Ni kama wale watu pia wanaenda skuli kujifundisha Kifaransa ama Kijerumani, lazima pia uwe na ule moyo wa kuwa unataka kufahamu lugha fulani.
Right. Interesting. I'm very cautious of time, obviously. What's your opinion when people look at a female journalist? Mostly, I won't say in Africa, especially news readers, they're being seen as flower girls. But listen to you, clearly you know what you're doing. And I watched your documentary yesterday of Samburu, and you clearly know your subject. So is it a myth or is it a perception that people say, news readers have to be beautiful and they have to behave in a particular manner? Is that, you've had this kind of theories, right?
I hear them every day, and they're a bit upsetting. They are. Okay, they were. Right now, I really don't care much about them. But looks are not, it's not everything. For crying out loud, there's wigs and there's makeup now, so it doesn't matter how you look. You can fix that very quickly for the screen. But what's most important is about what's here. And
right.
Actually, all of the female journalists know what they're doing. They put so much effort in everything they do. And you have to do a lot of research. It's a team effort. You have to work with others to be able to bring out that product. So when you insult female journalists because she looks good when she's doing what she's supposed to do, then you're insulting the whole team, which most of the time is also made up of men. So if you're insulting what this person is doing, you're not insulting an individual, you're insulting a whole team, and it's a big team. I like what Yvonne says every day, that putting up a news broadcast, it takes an entire village, because there's so many people involved in it that when you start saying, she's just pretty, she's just there because of her looks, because she looks pretty, then you have no idea what you're talking about. It takes so much effort. When I think about the Samburu story, which part 2 is airing today, we left with my cameraman. We left Nairobi at about 9 a.m. We got to Samburu at, I think, 3 p.m. And we didn't even have time to rest. We just checked into the camp, put our bags, and left for a shoot. Came back at about 7 p.m., had dinner, went to bed. 4 a.m. we were up. 4:30 a.m. we were having breakfast. 5 a.m. we were on the road. 7 a.m. we were shooting until about 3 p.m. We get back to it's so much work that when somebody says it's about looks, hey, I sit down and I'm like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. It's so much work that when you see me or any other female journalist looking good, the makeup is doing a lot of the work, because most of the times we're so tired, tired, and you have no option. The show must go on. Because I came back on Thursday night from Samburu. I got home at about 11 p.m. And Friday evening, I was on air for my show. And I was looking like I just woke up.
Yes. So, and the issue of color. And I cannot ignore this. And actually, this was someone sent this text to me, and I'll read it to you directly. Right, and he says, can you ask Mashirima to talk about being Black on TV? Rarely do we see, dark women in Kenya television, particularly in news segments. So suppose this person will try to ask the issue of, only light skin are the ones who are on TV. And the reason I'm asking this, Mashirima, again, there are those people or young girls that watching this right now, and they are dark like me, and they're like, we don't get that kind of opportunity there. So is this a case? Have you had this kind of stories as well? And the reason for asking this again is the intention of trying to inspire other people. You don't look at your color, you look at what you're doing. And as you've said, you've got to have passion in it. You need to go and know your stuff, but you need an opportunity to do that. So I'm putting this to you. The issue of color, is that something that people look at?
There's that discussion that
so there is.
It has gone on for a long time. I don't think it's a discussion that will ever have an end. But I'll use the example of Yvonne Okwara. She's dark skinned, she's on TV, and she's doing a brilliant job. She's amazing. Like, I keep mentioning her because I really, really look up to her. And
Yes.
there's one time she did an interview for a story that Asha Mwilu and Saida Swale did about bleaching skin. And she said when she was starting off, that was an issue, that there are people who said she's too dark for the screen. But did that stop her? No, it didn't. She's one of the top Kenyan female journalists.
Yes.
She's top in Africa. She was among the women who are part of this book by Facebook celebrating women in Africa, great, amazing women in Africa. So in as much as that may be an issue, you have to show why. I guess it's just sometimes a little harder for darker skinned girls.
So there is a barrier, right? I mean, it's an issue.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yes. I was asking. So you do acknowledge that it is an issue, isn't it, for for Black girls or Black female journalists or people that want to do what you do, for example, but are much darker than you. So that would always be an issue, Mashirima.
But at the same time, let me throw this back to you or the person who asked that question. Does it then mean that the lighter skinned girls are less deserving? I don't think so. I think there's what people sell, and then there's what you bring on the table. And I think Yvonne has proven that. Dorcas Wangira has proven that. Now I'm literally thinking about dark-skinned girls who do a great job on TV. Akisa Wandera, she's dark-skinned, but she does a brilliant job. And does she look less beautiful because she's dark-skinned? No. Is Sophia Wanuna or Mashirima less deserving because they're light-skinned? No. I think it's a difficult conversation to have.
Yes. Yes, and I think you mentioned those names. For example, you mentioned Yvonne Okwara, clearly, as you say, she's quite a top journalist. And actually, I've reached to her several times and she not replied. So I'm going to use you to tell this message to her. But it is good action that you mentioned that, yes, it is, it may be a barrier, but it doesn't stop you from doing what you're doing. And the last segment of this machine, I mean, again, the reason for this platform is to talk things or to talk about those characters, that brings opportunity aside from academics. So you talked about passion. What else will you say that young people or female journalists, for example, should have that will bring them to the table, that to give them that opportunity that someone like you have?
You must know your value. You must know what it is that sets you apart. You see, I thought Kiswahili would set me apart, and it did. I had also done a lot of work. So when I was sending out my applications for internship, I already had like a lot of work that I had done.
So did someone help you, Mashirima, then?
No. Oh my goodness.
When I say help, I mean in terms of so when you're growing up, family or friends, I mean, because these things you learn as you grow, isn't it? And obviously you and I we're very fortunate to do what you do. But there's usually people behind the scene could be family, could be spouse, could be friends that encourage you. So in your case, first about the language and also the passion, the way you know, when you talk, someone can see the passion you have. So what helped you to develop those? Was it family? Was it you? Was it friends? And the reason for asking again is for those people that are listening to us right now and are interested in what you do. So what's the journey like? Or who's behind you?
I guess it's a cocktail. There's definitely family. Then there's my teachers and my lecturers. You see, for me, when I got into high school, the first person I met was my Kiswahili teacher, and she was very kind to me on day one, and I loved her, and I loved the language even more from that point on. And when I got to uni, again, my lecturer, Dr. Rosemary Kuwor, she was also very hands-on, and she was really good at spotting what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and she would encourage you to do more. And I guess that's it. Family, friends, it's a cocktail. I can't exactly say there's this particular person. Everybody played a part.
So it's not a job of one person, just you. I mean, obviously you're the front line, but there are people that encourage you, particular family. So from what I'm hearing from you right now, is that family is very important when it comes to career choices, isn't it?
It is, if they encourage you. You see, there is also what family may have in mind for you. There are families where they believe that because the father is a doctor, the mother is a doctor, then the kids have to be doctors or lawyers or whatever. But if it's a family where you're given the opportunity to do what you love and you're encouraged to do it, then it's very important in helping you succeed, because you know that you can keep pushing, that even when you're not being paid for internship, there's someone supporting you, because they know that it's only a matter of time that
Right.
you'll break. Yeah.
It's a very male-dominated field, isn't it? What you do, or in journalism, particularly in Kenya. Is that
I would say it is. I would say it is, because behind the scenes you'll find that the technicians, the camera people,
yes,
the sound men, the lighting guys, like there are more men than women. When you walk into a news production, you'll understand what I mean. Uh, because
so
this
how do you
job,
cope?
it needs a lot of sacrifice, and it needs a lot of understanding from family, because it takes you away from them for long periods. Sometimes you don't get to participate in a lot of family events and whatnot, and you come home late. Not every day, but there are days you come home late, and you need people who really understand and who keep pushing you to keep on doing what you're doing. And it's a very time consuming career. And once you, especially for women, once you get children, it becomes a bit difficult to keep up.
Right.
That's the thing that happens a lot. And most of the female journalists will attest to it, that once you have family, it sort of becomes difficult to keep up.
But obviously, but there are lots of people that have done okay with family, with kids as well. So how do you cope? Well, so listen, I'm a man, and sometimes there's usually that kind of ego. Say you know your stuff very very well clearly. You've got passion on it. You're doing very well in terms of position, but still, for example, the segment you do, your two men, Mnene Nyaga and I need to get that name right. What's the name of that guy? Bakari. So and I see there's a natural chemistry between you and them. Clearly, clearly you like each other. But how do you cope with that kind of environment where it's dominated by one particular gender, but still, you're able to find your space and you're able to grow? How do you cope up in case there's that element of being looked down as a woman?
I've been fortunate to find very supportive men in this industry since I started. Munene and Bakari, we go way back. I started reading news for them when I was an intern at that radio station that I mentioned. So they're very supportive. That's one thing that I don't know. I don't even know how to put it, because I haven't had any particularly hard times when it comes to getting support about a story that I'm working on. If it's a story that I'm not comfortable doing or going on a particular assignment, and the assignment's editor is a man, they've just been so understanding. I don't, I don't know how to put it, because when I think back, there's once there were clashes in was it Turkana a while back, and John Alan Namu was the features editor, and he said, but there these very nice stories that you can go to Turkana and do about women. You know, there are cases of women being raped and whatnot. There's like some tribal clashes going on. So I think you go and come back with very beautiful stories. And I said, no, I can't do that. And he asked why, and I said, I can't go into a war zone. At that time, I didn't have the courage to, and he understood. But when we had the elections in 2013, and there are people in the slums who were being beaten up by police and whatnot, I had the courage then to go and do that story, and I did. So they've been very understanding. Like, they understand that safety first. If you're not comfortable going for the story, then they'll send a man to do it. If the environment is not good for a woman, then they will understand that, and they'll even raise that issue. Even during the 2017 elections, that issue also came up, and one of the bosses said, no, there's this particular area we cannot send a female journalist unless someone is brave enough to say, I'll go and do that, and they'll be encouraged to do it. But if you're not comfortable, then they let you be.
Wow. So for you, you don't feel threatened, or you don't feel there's nothing, it doesn't bother you at all, you as a person?
No,
No.
not
So
really.
where do you get this personality from, Mashirima? You come across as very cool and collected. It's quite admirable, actually, because the news, people when, for example, myself, when you read the news, it's like that's a job you're doing. But your personality is the same. You're quite cool. Una mambo mengi sana. So where is that? That's your personality, and there's when it comes to opportunities, personalities matter a lot, isn't it?
Yes, they do. As I said before, what we do is team effort. It's not about you. The news is not about you. The story is not about you. It's a lot of people working on the product. So you also have to be, how do I put it? You have to be a person who's easy to work with. You have to be someone who can take instructions. You have to be someone who can debate on something, that you don't have your mindset that this is what I want, and the other person is telling you that this is not achievable and you don't want to listen. It's just, you have to have the kind of personality that people can work with.
Right.
There's no,
And that is the problem. And Mashirima, that is a problem. If you don't have people behind you to support you and to tell you how things are, when you go to workplace, and that's actually why I set up this platform to try and show this other side of work. Like, it's not just academics, but there's also personality behind it. There's you need to be, as you say, someone that can work with people. So how do you grow that then? Because if you come fresh from school, and you get lucky, because there's some people that get employed straight away from school, no experience at all. So at what time, or where do they get where do they learn how to behave at work?
You have, first of all, you have to be ready to learn at someone's feet. It's just humility. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have. It doesn't matter how many masters or PhDs you have in journalism. You have to be ready to listen and to learn from the people who've been there. The people who probably have a diploma or a certificate, but they've been doing this for 20 years. Are you going to argue with someone like that when they tell you that whatever you want is not achievable, but there's another way that you can do the same thing? You understand? You just have to be ready to learn. Huwezi kuja hapo na kichwa ngumu ati mimi ndio nimesoma, mimi ndio niko na degree, mimi ndio I was top of my class. Mimi hapana. Heshima ni muhimu. Heshima, humility, very important.
Lakini hiyo ni changamoto, sivyo? Changamoto kama hayo, mtu anakuja anasema mimi nimeenda Harvard, ama mimi nimesoma shule fulani, kwa hivyo mimi niko na ujuzi zaidi kushinda upande wa kitabu. Kwa hivyo unachosema hapa ni kwamba like young people, but I talk about young people because they always want to make it, and we're living in a generation where we know our stuff, or we know our rights. Na mtu kuja kwako anasema utadu, like I'm here on merit. I've studied the subject. I know what I'm doing. I can't listen to you. There's those kind of people, isn't it? That have that kind of attitude.
Unajua, kujua si vibaya. It's not a bad thing to know your stuff. It's actually very good. But it's also how you relay that info. It's how you speak to someone who's been in this industry longer. You hukuji hapo na ujuaji. You can, there's a way you can say something and someone listens, even if they're way older than you, even if they've been in this industry longer. You see, Munene and Bakari have been in this industry for so long.
Oh yes.
But I say, Bakari and Munene, I think we should do this instead of this. They listen. Why? Because of how I'll say it. Sitakuja niseme, even work naenda. I wouldn't say it that way. I'll use a different approach. I'll be polite, because how would you work with people? And even our director for Nipashe, his name is Robert. He's also fairly young, but Bakari and Munene listen to him. If any of us does anything wrong on air, we'll we'll get it rough after the show. And if anyone is late on set, we'll get it rough with Robert. And we all listen. I remember one time we were doing a recording and Munene was late, and he really had a tough time with Robert. But he listened. He didn't take it the wrong way. Right. He apologized. He said, "I'm so sorry. I was late. I should have left home earlier." And it just works right. When Bakari is late, it's the same thing. If I'm late on set, it's the same thing.
Wow, interesting. And I think, as I say, I can't stay there the whole day just talking about, what you do and how you do them. There are two things you've mentioned that's very, very important. And to me, actually, the things that you take for granted. For example, you talked about being able to learn and listening. Most people don't do this at all. And right now, we're living in the generation of social media, where people can access you easily. People can send you all sorts of stuff. So do you block yourself sometimes from trolls?
Yeah, first of all, I'm not I'm not very active on social media. I wouldn't say I am. And I try as much as possible to keep my personal life away from the public. I'm okay with the public judging what I've done career-wise, if it's a story, how I did it, if it's an interview, they think maybe I should have done it differently. I'm okay with getting that kind of criticism. I don't mind it. When somebody is being mean, as I said, I block you, because anyway, first of all, you're not even courageous enough to have your own profile picture on your handles. You may not even have your real name, so you don't matter. Second is that when the fact that I said that I don't post my personal life as much, because I don't want people's opinion on how I live my life. You already have so much to say about what I do. So this is my space. So
So
that's
is
just
that a message? So is
how
that
I
a message you're sending? So is that a message you're telling people that, you need to separate between career and your personal life? Because nowadays people are saying everything they can.
No. Everybody makes a choice. Kila mtu kwa raha zake. Whoever feels that they're okay with sharing their, if anything, I follow those people who are always sharing about their personal life. They look like they're having more fun than the rest of us, which is okay.
Yes.
But I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't. I just feel like that's a space I want for me and those I love.
Yes.
I don't want to let in everybody else. I just don't. There's this thing. There's this we say with my friends that even at a wedding, there are the guests who sit at the high table, and then there's everybody.
Yes.
So it's the same thing for me on sharing what I do. I will always share what I do, the behind the scenes and what I will always put that online. But my personal life, that is out of bounds. So that's
Yes. Yes.
why I guess I don't necessarily have a lot of trolls, if I would put it that way, because they what do they have to troll? They can troll my work. I don't know, but that's trolling my personal life. No.
I was part. Well, and last question for me, Mashirima, and I'll let you go. Somebody also is asking, well, not asking, but they sent me a text asking about mentorship, and they're like, many people relate with you because of how you do things, your personality wise, those little things you show us online. For example, the way you relate with Bakari and Munen, people admire that. And most young people would like to kind of have that kind of relationship at the workplace. So is that opportunity, or do you actually mentor young people that want to come to journalism, but all they know about journalism is you on the TV screen, but they don't know what's happening behind the scene, and then how to behave, how to dress, what time to listen, what time to say, those things that again comes with experience. Is this something that you do, or is it something that you're thinking about?
You see, this is how I think of mentorship. It requires a lot of time, and you require to be in the same space with someone. You have to constantly be with this person. And I do that with a few people, but it's online. Like, you send questions and I'll respond to that. But when it comes to actually sitting down, I've done that with very few people. Um, First of all, because this job requires you there. How can I mentor you to do something or to do what I do when you're not there? You understand? It's very difficult. So it's easier to mentor someone who's like an intern at Citizen TV. It's easier because they're with you constantly. You go with them to the field, you're with them in the studio, you're looking at their stories and their work, what they've done. That's what mentorship is. And as I said, I've done it for very few people who are actually there. Because for me, I believe I can't give you 50%. I'd rather work with one person but give you 100. That I'll constantly be looking at what you've written. I'll redo it. I'll tell you you should write this way. This was fine. If you're going to do a piece to camera, do it this way. If I'm going to the field, I tell you let's go together so that you see what I'm doing. But online niyo tu maswali, mtu akiuliza swali then nitajibu. Kama tena mtu akiuliza maswali ambayo unaona huyu mtu ako na maono, because there are people who will just tell you I want you to be my mentor, but they're not saying what.
So that's very specific instead.
You have to be specific about what you want. Or the people who just say, hi mentor. Because you say you have to be able to communicate what you want. As I said, Kevin, you sent me a message and you said, look, I do ABCD. I would love for you to be on this show. When are you available? You see, there's direction. you know what you want, you're asking for what you want, and you're giving timelines. But when somebody just says hi and they don't say anything else, then it becomes a bit difficult to
I like
communicate.
that. No, I like that. And I'm very happy that you be very honest, because most of the times, successful people always say, yes, I mentor people. So, Mashirima, are you saying that mentorship is overrated?
I'm not saying that. I am not. I think that the people I've worked with can be able to say more about whether they learned anything from me in the few months that they were in the particular organization that I was in at the time. Because I do that a lot with interns,
Right.
for sure. That if somebody comes up to me and says, Mashirima, I want to learn, then you'll always be seated next to me. If I'm going out to the field, we'll go together. Whenever it allows, I'll let you into that space. But
Right.
I'm not saying anything about whether it's overrated or not. It's important, but you also have to approach the person you feel will be able to give you 100, not
Right.
50, because
Yes.
online ni maswali tu unaweza jibu.
Right.
You
Right.
you can't practically mentor someone. Okay, I don't believe you can. At least I don't. Mimi naamini mtu hapo tufuatane
Right.
uone kitu ninaweza kukiangalia, ama kuna wale ambao wataandika wakutumie. You see, that's
Right.
a
Yes.
part of things that I can do. Unaweza kunitumia story useme I did this and I'll look at it and I'll tell you no, you should do it this way.
Wow, wow. Listen, I've blown away by the way you talk about things. It's not what I expected, because after we judge a lot when we see things. And, clearly, your staff, Mashirima, and good for you. I think what I'm getting from this conversation is you say that people need to know what they want, isn't it? And obviously you say some people look at mentorship as a way of job. We say, but it's not really like that, isn't it? But some people come to you and say, Mashirima, I want to be my mentor. But actually what they mean is, I want you to give me work. I want you to give me a job. Which are different things.
Exactly. And what mentorship should be is helping you better your skill. And if there's an opportunity, then I would know and send it to you.
Right.
And if I have been able to work with you closely for a time, I can even vouch for you, that I can say, oh, by the way, kuna mtu fulani anatuma internship, huyo mwangalieni. Unaona, kwa sababu tayari nimeshaona kile umefanya. But yes. I can't vote for you if I don't know you, I don't know what you do, I've never looked at anything that you've ever done, I've never listened to something that you've done. You understand? Like, yes. There's someone who sent me a shairi on Instagram, and I was like, wow. And he said, can I be part of your show? Well, I had to explain that right now we can't do it because of the format of the show as is. But if an opportunity arises, then definitely I would think of that person, because
right.
He sent me something. I've seen what they can do. So it becomes easier when someone has seen your work.
Yes.
As opposed to just saying you want an opportunity.
Right. So those people looking for work, they should have something to offer the table. You don't just come and say, "Mina after kazi, what have you done?" Mashirima, I'll let you go. But before I let you go, what I normally do to every guest, and you can say no if it's up to you. So I normally ask guests to introduce with someone else. So for example, you, the person that I had asked to introduce to you, he told me, "Oh, Mashirima na mambo. When mwandikie Mashirima ata reply," and indeed you did that. So I'm going to ask you, I would like you to introduce me to two people. You can say no if you like. So that is, I can't even say the names, but I'll go for it. I'd like to introduce you to Wayvonne Okwara to come to the show.
Okay, that's fine. At least she's someone I talk to. She's also a very easy person, very resourceful, and she's a gem.
So you're going to make this work. You make this happen.
I'll try to.
I know it's only, you can only ask. Absolutely. And as I say, I can only write to you, and some people look at this differently, but you can only ask.
Yes, definitely. You see that what you need is an introduction, and I'll do that.
Yes,
Then from
absolutely.
there,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
all you. It's all you.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
I can only ask, and yeah, that intro, means a lot to me, and at least it breaks the ice because it comes from you. I cannot thank you enough, Mashirima. And for those that just listen to us, I was talking to Mashirima Kapombe, who's a journalist based in Nairobi. And three things I'm getting from here is that those people with opportunity, you must be able to listen, you must be able to learn, and you must have something to present at the table. You don't just come saying, "Natafuta kazi." Well, listen, what do I say? And I'm so obviously glad to have met you. I feel like you're part of my network. I cannot thank you enough, Mashirima. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, say to the little boy. Bye for now, Mashirima.
Asante. Bye.
Cheers.